And when I mentioned this issue, as I stated previously, what to think, what to eat, what, where, how, and when to shit, not even to shit. If you are still afraid that they're gonna come to pick you up, as this communist scumbag Proxil have stated to me, dare to ask me, the scumbag that claimed that doesn't know anything about my case, but I will explain to you what she knows about my case in continuation. Further, do you remember when I mentioned to you how I was hospitalized? I was not hospitalized, I was brutalized. I was brutalized, I was thrown in a van, shackled, and I was on a terror drive, as much as possibly traumatical terror drive all the way to mental hospital in Ljubljana. If we join this statements of mine, or what I have stated, and you have criminal communist scumbag asking you, I repeat, are you still afraid they're gonna come to pick you up at any time? It would be, and it was the moment, it was a breaking point in this case. She wanted me to say, but they were doing this kind of stuff, either they were doing this kind of stuff to me, or she would suggest that which would give her the ability to write down that I'm suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, or would have me, in other words, accept, if I would say no, accept what they have done to me. And they have openly thrown me for no reason whatsoever inside of the van and inside of the mental hospital. So I was really efficient about it, not with, but just explanatory. If I cite myself, and I believe I have recorded it, I said, who wouldn't be afraid? I mean, if you get thrown behind the walls of mental institution the way I was, for no reason whatsoever, can you please explain to me who wouldn't be afraid if they're gonna come to pick me up? She got more than what she expected she will get. She didn't get no yes, she didn't get no, she got the proper answer. I, in other words, am not gonna accept terror for granted. I am not gonna accept genocide for granted, because her idea was really to say yes or no, and subconsciously the brain works in such a pattern, in such a way that you develop yourself into direction that is actually even apologizing what they have done to you in real time, folks, not only under MK Ultras, but in real life. That was actually a breaking point. From there on, we have started to I started to see completely different attitude. It was more and more her bubbling about the disease that never ever existed. In fact, she knew that at that point that she will either make it or totally break it. And I tell you today that she didn't break it. She is broken. Today she is broke. She just doesn't know yet how broke she is. From this point on, this mental game didn't change. On each and every one of those sessions, I have repeatedly declined to accept her mind game. She played crazy garbage, suggesting me that hospitalization was all good for me. Don't you understand? It's all good for you. We all helped you out by throwing you in mental hospital. It was all help to you. It was all help to you. Everything in my case was help to me. It was help to me because when I exited, since intelligence agencies, imagine this garbage, were interested in my case by throwing me behind the walls of a mental institution, would actually give me the ability to claim that I am mentally unfit and therefore I would not go in the jail. Just as if it was not for intelligence agencies that I was not only conducted genocide against, but also thrown in mental institutions because they really didn't have and don't have any legit, or I should say legal reason to engage with me with some kind of legal procedures. Right? But yes, it was all good for me. It's always in psychiatry, it's good for you. It's good for you whatever we do for you. If we decline you 30,000 jobs, it's good for you. We throw you on an operation table and threaten you with lobotomy. Guess what? It's good for you. It's good for you. Everything that you're going to deal with this scum, it's going to be good for you. Whatever they're going to do to you, it's going to be good for you. And if you happen to survive like I did, the assassination attempts, which were too many to count, they are always indirect. It's always, well, what can we say? Then we have to work more on good for you is what we have to work on. We have to help you. Don't you understand? It's all about help. A breaking point afterwards continued more and more and more, and since I didn't fall for any of her stupidities, and my mom and my father continued to witness to her that nothing is wrong with me, that we get along very well, and she just didn't know anymore what to do with it. She started to harass with, at one point, basically she proceeded and with her harassments, and at one point she tried to terrorize me because I have literally like this, I have moved the chair, and it's all recorded. I have moved the chair, and all of a sudden she started, "You're suffering. I feel so sorry for you because you are suffering. You are suffering." And I was like, what? My mom was like, what? Yeah, I feel so sorry for you because you're suffering. She called my name, and I feel so sorry for you because you're suffering. She, like, we were, like talking, how is everything, this and this and that, and moved the chair, and all of a sudden I feel so sorry for you that you are suffering. It was deadly serious. And if I recall that, I was like, wow. And I was basically, if I show that. Basically, I was like this, moving my leg. not that would even make noise. It's recorded. It's all recorded. And she kept looking at me like nuts, like insane. And you see, you're moving your legs, you're shaking. I was like, wow, man, wow. My mom was pale. All this experience that I went through with her, with this terrorizing, it was not as bad for me because I knew what this was all about, but it was quite bad for my mom. My mom turned into nervous wreck, like I have suggested, I think in video 92 or 93. She became extremely nervous and afraid that they're gonna really come and pick me up at any time, and take me back. That's how my mom felt about it. My mom loves me very much, and I love her very much. We are very much attached to each other. And despite everything that have happened, also my mom, during my absence when in the United States, was terrorized to the point that she had to undergo mental evaluation here in the city of Novo Mesto. That means I have found the file in one of the drawers. That means they have horrified and terrified my family to the bitter notch. They probably couldn't do more than what they did. And as I stated, if they wouldn't comply, they wouldn't be here. That's just the name of the game. Well, at that point, I have actually responded to her. I think that I have stated her back that I feel sorry for her to suffer, because that's just how I have told her. I said, thanks. I told her I'm fine. And I have recorded that. I did not break down the way that she anticipated it. After we have left, my mom have actually was quiet about it. She was that nervous in that meeting, and a half later suggested me, I think because due to fear for me, but you were not nice to her. And I was like, Mom, whatever. This is what you're gonna, if God forbid the same thing is gonna happen to you, all this stuff you will have to handle. It's gonna be nerve-wracking stuff. In addition to what I already have stated, mountains of papers they will deliver to you, all kinds of lies against you. It is the stuff that, and much more that I will explain, you will have to deal with. Anyhow, she didn't make it. She knew that I will not go down. Very well acquainted with my situation. Her assistant, Nurse Yerich, who was used to greatly intimidate afterwards, after every session that took place with Proctor, since I have declined to engage in any kind of conversations about MK Ultras and other stuff that took place against me. They were trying to trigger me into talk. It was pretty much welcome for them, any kind of talk, even if we would be talking about, and what I was compelled into talk about, what took place at Dr. Proctor, is how she would refer, and she would demand, and I mean demand from me to not fax but email her what I have previously mentioned would be given to me as a outcome of the session, the reports, if you like, from Dr. Proctor. Yes, I had to have them scanned and email them personally to her email box. At that point, it became totally clear to them that I will not go down at all, that they are facing way too much resistance, and they had to go on everything or nothing. Well, to go on everything or nothing, a last desperate attempt to break me down, they have taken the following steps. From my posting online, well, they pretty much knew that I am recording everything. They have, on 2 occasions, folks, the last 2 occasions, and this is why, as I'm about to explain, they have had, prior to the meeting, to use some kinds of machine to literally shut off my electronic equipment. Yeah, you are prompted, I assume, to present yourself at the window where nurse takes your information, your card, your healthcare card, to enter, to confirm the appointment, enter your name, time of your arrival, everything in the computer, and what you enter inside of her at the doctor's office. And at that point, I think they have used some kinds of array device to blast into me, into area where they know I have the recording device, to get it, shut it off, this device. Simple as this. And it was not only the electronic device that I have used, the recorder, which is extremely sophisticated recorder. We're talking about a recorder that have a lock on it. You lock once you start recording. You can see from my recordings how awesome, sophisticated that device is. And you will hear from recordings which I have conducted. Regardless, even with the lock that you have, in other words, wherever you put that thing, it's not going to disconnect. Even if you press the button on it, it's not going to disconnect until you unlock the device. Yes, on the last 2 occasions, it was the last 2 occasions, during session itself, my recording device was shut off. Not that it would stop the record, but shut off. So that means they have used some sort of electronic, some kind of ray, something, to literally blast my little recorder to the point when one would go blank, would shut itself off. What was used, I don't know, but I guarantee you that they do have it. Why have they done that? Well, because during the last 2 sessions, Dr. in a parenthesis, Communist Proctor, would go to the point when she would literally, yes, upon my entering inside of the room, I would go with my mom, and it would be a chair like this. I would just move the chair in order to sit down, to have a sit on what she would explode on me. And before we would even start to talk, she would start to accuse me, because I have moved the chair in order to sit. She would start to accuse me that I have the disease, that I am suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. Well, folks, this is what they refer to as therapies. But this therapist, and she would continue in front of my mom, who was totally wrecked, nervously wrecked. She would continue to the point when she would literally be watching me, how I breathe, how I have become nervous. Literally, folks, that what started to bother her, literally, that you would move, that you're moving, you're breathing. You were not even allowed to anything. I see that you have the disease, and we have to do something about this, because your disease has progressed and this and that. I see that you're moving. Hey, man, yeah. So it was well anticipated on what during the last session that took place just about, I don't know, a week or something, 23rd, 2 weeks ago, I have adopted a different kind of attitude, and she anticipated. We would enter inside, and before I would sit, I would literally ask her, I said, Dr. Prokshel, I said, would it be okay for me to move the chair so I can sit? And she would be, yeah, sure, why? I said, well, I said, because during the last time when we were here, I was not even allowed to move the chair. I mean, you were bothered with my moving chair, so I just want to make sure that's not going to disturb you. I said, can I please move the chair? Would it be okay for me to sit? Yeah, sure, yeah, everything will be fine, everything will be wonderful. Yeah, how you get along at home, this and that, everything fine, everything fine. Yeah, she realized that I have her more than enough. On what she wanted to finish this session. At that point, we ended this session. She realized that I'm not taking it even a little bit anymore, and she took the recorder and started to, before she started to record, like it was the case, usually was the case, she suggested me, and if it's something, yes, if it's something that you would not agree with what I say in dictaphone, please just interrupt me, correct me, she said. I said, yes, I will, and before you go on with it, I have to correct you that it is in fact the first time of, I think it was like 6 sessions or so, that you have actually allowed me to correct you, to actually interrupt you, because so far you have talked in your recorder, in your dictaphone, whatever you wanted to record, and God forbid that I would even breathe, literally. She anticipated to correct this major blow. She attempted to quickly gain traction back and continue with her mind game, with her harassment further, by simply suggesting me how do you feel about coming here? And I pretty much told her, as I have told her on numerous other occasions, and listen to this very careful, folks. I told her I don't feel pleasant about it. I don't really like coming here for obvious reasons, but I don't. I comply. You know, simple as this. I do whatever I am ordered to do, and this is how I take it. Simple as this. On what she tried, as I stated, to gain the traction back, and she suggested, well, would it be okay? Maybe we can set up the appointment for the next time in 2 months. How about that? How would you feel about coming back in 2 months? I said, fine, whatever works for you. Whatever you're gonna say, this is how we, I will comply with, as I always did. This is very important for you to understand, because they will tempt you. Of course, going in a mental hospital as a healthy person is extremely unpleasant. You can imagine this yourself. Now you're going to the mental hospital, healthy individual. Now you have to go report yourself in a mental hospital all of a sudden, and for what? To be harassed on top of that, tremendously harassed. But regardless of that, people, you have to comply with that, because if you don't comply with that, they will write whatever the hell they want to write, and one thing leads to another. You're gonna get yourself in trouble. Yeah, I said, whatever works for you. And she goes on, yeah, 2 months, would that be fine? Yeah, I said that would be fine. But this, in fact, was used for what is coming next, as she believed that she gained traction, that for what would be, I would settle at least something. So at that point, she continued against me with statement that the same thing like before on all these other sessions. He is groomed, well groomed, clean. She didn't mention that mom told her that they understand that relationship at home with the parents is great. Mom told her that couldn't be better on every one of the sessions. We got no complaints. But she continues to record, but I see the signs of the disease reappearing. Well, that was what she believed, that I will, for that incentive, for that 2-month incentive, I believe that when she used, that I will just, go along with it, whatever, like I did many times before. I was quiet, as I stated, for obvious reasons. But at that point, and due to all the proofs that I have used that opportunity to, I'm not going to say inform her, but remind her that diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia is basically to see things that do not exist. So if she continue to saw things that didn't exist in me, it was my job, it was my duty to actually correct her. And I have suggested her at that moment. I said, excuse me, I said, but it's not that I'm a paranoid schizophrenic, it's you. I told her, you are mentally sick. You, in fact, are a paranoid schizophrenic because you see things in people that do not exist. This is pretty much, folks, how this last session have ended. And I am very, very upset because of what you, Dr. Prochel, with your police department in Novo Mesto have done. And that means, and I have to remind you, that you have turned off my electronic recording device totally illegally, totally against the law. And don't believe even for a second that I don't have the proof, because in this case, the proof enough is going to be that such device that can cause the electronic device to turn off is the proof enough for me to claim that you have done that again. During the last 2 sessions that took place, since things didn't go along the way they planned it would, Dr. Prochel also began to delay what was appointment letter. On this appointment letter, I would receive the date, in other words, that we have set for each session. And there would be also listed what I have referred before as a report. That was appointment letter, where also diagnosis of previous appointment was described, whatever she wanted to write on that paper, as I stated. I didn't have any say or anything. And during the last 2 sessions, it came to the point, that the session prior to the last one, this letter that would usually appear within the week, was delayed progressively into just week prior to the session. And then during the last session, the letter did not appear at all. Okay, the letter did not appear at all, but we did appear in that appointment. And it's quite funny, because during the recordings you will learn, recordings which I have translated for you, which will be posted on my blogs, you will all learn how this abuse went on, and amongst others that this is no problem, it's no problem, yeah, it's no problem, it always is the letter, will be invitation, and this and that. Yeah, folks, this is how that is. During this 6 months of supervision, I was also summoned to the court, and as I already have explained on the website, on the blog, under the blog itself, they have started again with some kind of a witch hunting, that they could use in order to make you believe, as same thing as I have previously stated, that you would be lucky, that you would be lucky that the persecution against you would stop, and it would be used as an excuse. It was used that how you get along with the parents. So it was not about really trial, as I have explained, but as an excuse, as a lie was used, how you get along with the parents. And it's like I have stated already for 2 previous attorneys, the attorney that was pretty much impressed with the way I have conducted myself in court. You know, folks, it only takes one phone call, and it is the phone call that changes the mind of attorney, his approach toward your case. In fact, attorney that was impressed with the way I have conducted myself in court, and have at first the same day after the court suggested me that he is absolutely sure that judge is gonna favor me. In fact, judge alone suggested that if that I don't have to, after I have called my mom outside, it's unfortunately have disconnected the recorder and did not record that after I have exited the courtroom. Father was right outside, mom was below. She was wow, she was like sarcastic about it, because they had window open outside of the court, and she suggested me, and you started to talk about how you were jobless, that they have declined you 30,000 jobs, that you were in Sweden, Norway, and this and that. It was bothering her, everything, because the only thing my parents would want, they would hush. They would like to hush this thing. And this judge, in fact, would suggest that others, such as my sister and others, her son-in-law and her daughter, don't need to come on the trial at all, because they feel that there's no need for that. The testimony that was given by myself and my parents already convinced that judge that day that there is no need for that. If you meet them, just tell them that there's no need to come. They were scheduled for that day to attend the courtroom. However, as I stated, that attorney miraculously changed his mind that very same day. When I called him, I have stated to him that I would like to obtain some more legal advice, and I would like to further press charges against local police for fabricating lies against me. First, he postponed from what should be meeting that very same day with him. He postponed that to another 14 days. And then he suggested that I should not even think about pursuing this case or anything, that I should just be quiet about it and just let it go, in other words. Because he also rationalized his behavior, his changed attitude, that he have never had case in his life when and where the one that was charged would hurry with outcome of the trial, which I did. To be exact about it, it was on September the 19th that hearing was conducted. On what on November the 14th, when I have demanded about results, about having the results about this hearing conducted, so I could go and use this hearing to press charges against the local police. The same lawyer, Boris Tiran, tells me now that I'm still in procedure of being investigated because of my inquiry about court hearing, about the results, that I have dared to demand the results the very same day as a retaliation. And this is something I'm going to talk about. I didn't talk about because you see so much to talk about. Whenever you would release the video or blog or anything you would release, these communists, what they would do is they would retaliate. They would either come up with something always. I mean, it was time that they would use literally the number, the main number from this hospital, to call me home whenever I would post a message on the Facebook, and they would claim that somebody called on that number and they had caller ID, and that was the ID, the number that they would give them missed call on what they would return call to me. asking me if I called them and if everything is alright. That was repeated over and over and over and over again. Whenever I would post something on Facebook that would not go along with this communist Zionist scum, bingo! You know what? Not only my blogs and my videos were 1,000 times viewed by this scum, but they literally have whatever you would post on a Facebook and such, they would just juke, they would go after you. Anyhow, on this same day as I inquired about hearing from my, in parentheses, attorney, they would retaliate to me, and I would get the information message from the mental hospital from Ljubljana itself that the supervision that was the 6 months will be now extended for another 6 months, and it was because this nurse Jeric, Andrea Jeric, would come up with idea that I am withdrawn and that I'm not social. You know what I mean? You're gonna see from my recordings what kind of garbage this is. I mean, literally stuff that bothered them. Everything bothered them. Everything, totally everything bothered them. So they just came up with the idea that they're gonna just extend the supervision for another 6 months. And it was other stuff that they have retaliated. Recently I have released, when I started the blog, they have retaliated again with some other stuff, and then it was when I released previous video, actually, excuse me, it was the recording that I have published, the court hearing that I have translated in English, boom, and it was from right away from Strasbourg Court for Human Rights that they cannot help me because simply I have not used all the legal means in so-called Slovenia. My gosh, really? I don't know what happened though with so many other applications. My appeals that I have made to European Court for Human Rights itself when institutionalized against law. And I have begged them and begged them and begged them for help in English. Just like the paperwork that you can see on the blog that I have posted. So I really don't understand where all of a sudden the concern about, other than to basically intimidate it, that they will not help me until I'm going to use all the means in Slovenia, if you like. So it's like retaliatory. Anything that you're going to post online, such stuff like videos or blogs or something, they're always going to hurry up. Trust me, it will be that same day that mailman will deliver you something. My suggestion, again, if I might, is for you to take that letter, throw it somewhere on the side, do your job, whatever you want to do, project for that day, and once you're done, you can go ahead and open that and read it through. Because it makes no sense for you to get disturbed in early morning hours with garbage, with nonsense, which is only used to cause you what is mental breakdown, as I have explained. It's all used parallel to break you down. This is one of the things that was used, but let's go back to this court and such. When I have released the video, the previous video, the very next day, on 28th, I believe it was on 28th, yes, November the 28th, you're talking about 4 days ago, all of a sudden you would have from social services, they would appear here in a house from my parents. I'm just giving you an example how they follow up on you whenever you release something, a recording or video or blog, to terrorize you. They would all of a sudden, they would appear here from social services, and they would start to talk with my mom, question them how we get along, how are things and stuff like that. Folks, these are the same people that have in 2008, when after I have won the case against local police here in Novo Mesto, communists, same folks that have come to threaten me that they will institutionalize me in mental hospital. They have come here to offer treatments for unfunded diseases. That was already in 2008, and it was as a result of that I have escaped back to United States. In fact, they were so bad that they have the communists, the Yugo, the pro-Serbian, Lamošek and Goršić, two pro-Serbian, pro-Yugoslav scumbags here, have actually demanded from me two things. One thing was for me to show them American passport, so they could see American passport, which obviously they didn't have any ability to throw me behind the walls of mental institution at that point. They have to fabricate garbage against me, and this is what we are now. So that's why I have anticipated that they will do that in the future. And the second thing, they have demanded for me to report to them at the local here, at the social services, where they have had mentally retarded people. They have given me the number, the number from the office, from the building, where they have had homeless and mentally retarded people, and that's what I have had reported the next day, because they have suggested that I have to report that they will be talking to me further about things. This is the type of people. So yeah, this is how pretty much the same people. They come whenever they want to come, like a sheriff. They just sit in the car. The communist just sits in the car. They drive to your home, and before you know, they sit right in your table and they start to terrorize you, to the point that they drive you nuts, pretty much. How would you feel that we just throw you a little bit behind the walls of the mental institution? That's pretty cool. Just for you to know, in 2008, I didn't even mention anything about MK Ultras. And with this, in a parenthesis, Dr. Proctor, this scum, I only have a little comment. And comment is that we were brainwashed during the compulsory education that we have taken in this communist shithole known as Slovenia, what used to be back then Yugoslavia, with stuff that it was the Nazis, that they would walk from one person to another, that they would, in other words, line up people, and then they would go from one person to another, and they would literally observe them, and if they would breathe in inappropriate way, they would select them to be eliminated, to be shot in garbage like this. You know what I mean? And then you have a communist shit garbage like Proctor, subhuman, to literally come and terrorize you to the point when you are literally, after you were denied like 30,000 jobs in 8 different countries on 2 continents and stuff like this, after you were persecuted worse than an animal, tortured, come to you and dares to go after you to the point when you breathe, you bother her. Regardless of all this, the same day that these social workers have appeared here, I have called back and I have demanded from individual that is in charge for this social services in Novo Mesto, and whose name is, in fact, Alois Simoncic is his name. I've demanded the names of the people that were here. 2 women were here. I just want to clarify that they are not to appear here without prior notice, without prior arrangement. So he declined to give the names, and I will accordingly deal with him as well. Social services. This is the stuff that you will have to deal with. This is brutal. Just for you to know more about it. I was not allowed from individual whose name is Udoch, room 111 at local court in Novo Mesto. Even filed for what are free legal aid assistance. Basically the only thing I need is for attorney to say that he is attorney, so I can trigger my stuff that I have mentioned, which is really is a lawsuit against police, those that have lied, fabricated statements against me, mental hospital itself, psychiatrists that were involved against me and are involved against me very today. Nurse, therefore Prokshel and Yerich. Court itself now, of course, because they don't have the right to decline me free legal aid. The scum is giving me 200 euros per month, and it's the average pay in Slovenia 1,000 euros. As a matter of fact, 1,500 euros per month. So you can imagine the difference between the income here. If I'm not allowed to free legal aid, then who is it? That's at least what the communist, Udoch is his name, have attempted to pursue me with. That I don't have the right to legal assistance, that I don't have the right to file charges against police department or mental hospital and stuff like that. Pretty much is the name of the game. I will also further file charges against, in a parenthesis, Judge Boris Kodrich. Obviously for the reasons that I have suggested already when translating the hearing itself. Not hearing, but really political persecution, interrogation. This is how things are. So what's going to come out of this? I don't really know. I don't know what are they gonna approve this free legal aid. I don't know what situation is going to be, but I do know that they have no place to run anymore. This is something I know, and I will explain to you more about that. And for me to end this properly, I have suggested a Norwegian such and such psychologist who was involved in abduction during 1998 due to circumstances that I was for the first time at that point hospitalized already at mental hospital, in this very mental hospital where they have hospitalized me again. I will not mention her name, as I stated, because she was the only one of these criminals that have actually expressed concern for me. That's the only reason that is that I will keep her away from it all. I did that. I have mentioned them. The paperwork that I had in English disappeared, but I have stated them when hospitalized, and also my complaints that I was already, prior to hospitalization in 2012 that I was talking to you about, already prior to that, during MK Ultra procedures, tortured in this very hospital. In fact, upon arrival to this very hospital, the day that they have not transferred me, but drove me all the way to Ljubljana during circumstances as I explained. Upon arrival there, the two cops that were, when I was shackled on wheelchair and they were pushing me in the elevator, they would ask me, "Do you know where you are?" And he would tell the other guy, "This is where he likes to come. This is where he likes to come." And then before that, he mentioned that. And then he asked me, "Do you know where you are?" I said, "Not that I would know of." And then the elevator opened and I went through and I saw anywhere from staff to the hallway and everything else. I knew exactly where the hell I was. How the hell are you gonna know where you are if I drug you up, throw you on a wheelchair, take you inside of some kind of ward, hospital, and then I take you out? How the hell would you know where the hell were you unless you go back inside of that place again? How? So it was the proper thing for me to say, not at that time, not that I would know of. So it was more appropriate for me to confirm that I already was previously tortured in that very hospital. They were using this torture to highly discourage me from pursuing the rights, terrorizing me, and not only this, Dr. Proxer, this is how we're going to end this video. Wow, amazingly, it is going to be what, 99, 97, 98, 90, 96, 97, 98. Wow, 99 is my lucky number. Do you know that? That is a lucky number. You know what, Proxer, you are not lucky. You, in fact, are not, and I mean not, going to release anybody. And when I say anybody, me, from what you have suggested me under MK Ultra procedures. Folks, not only they have used MK Ultra against me during hospitalization prior to what took place in Ljubljana, but they were also using very same woman, Proxer, communist scumbag from Novo Mesto, to heavily brainwash me just what they are going to do if I will complain. They knew the stages I will go through when I will be complaining about, and it was always, if you will dare to talk about what we will do to you. And because they knew that I am extremely strong, even though they said that he's never going to get to that stage, and Proxer called them on the side, I was drugged up, but I could hear. But what about if he will? I have to do that. So she went and she did what is autosuggestia. I don't know how many of you are familiar with, and that's what is basically used to brainwash people during MK Ultra procedures. She suggested me, in the end, I will be the one who will write down on the paper that you are not suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. I will be the one who will save you, release you, this and this and that. Well, the news is, Proxer, you're not going to be the one who will release me from, save me if you like, from anything. You're not going to even save yourself because of what I have stated. This is pretty much, folks, how they have anticipated they would have their things happen for them. So you see, mighty Obama was a little bit more mighty than what you could imagine, and I was in a lot of more shit that what you would be told or you could know about. The thing about it all is that we only get screwed when we don't talk about. We live in a culture known also as unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know, everything is unbelievable. Everything you see on internet or somebody tells you, or you see something, they always tell you, oh, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Well, maybe it's time to change the attitude and start to acknowledge what is taking place against you with very, 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 very believable. Because this is the only way we will survive. To subsist no longer is acceptable, it's no longer a solution. And for me to really, really properly zip this video, okay, at age 5 in the kindergarten, I don't know, was it 4 or 5? I'm not sure about that, but I think it was 5. I have had of friends of mine, natives from here, to take oath, blood oath, that we will resist to what we have seen was taking place in the kindergarten. That was at the age 5. And what I mean by that is the difference between the children itself from other, at that time, republics was so huge that we have taken what was a blood oath. We would go like this, we would puncture our little fingers, and we would have them like this. We would mix that drops of blood, but we would do that. It was a little ritual. That was at age 5. Meaning that at age 5, we knew I was the one who have incited that little pledge, blood oath. At age 5, and psychologists, psychiatrists know what that means. I just want to really explain you that Obama today doesn't know if he's woman or he is man. I mean, he is disgrace even for his own race. That was at age 5. It's pretty much the difference. Unfortunately, these kids were so impressed, they felt so empowered with this, that they have gone to their parents and have talked to their parents about what I have made them perform. And as a result of that, the system, this pro-Yugoslav system at that time, panicked so much that I tell you, when I entered grammar school, was exactly what I have written on my blogs have taken place against me. I have had 2 concentration survivors, literally. One's name was Stancic and another one was Urbanch. People so insane, mentally sick, yet in educational system have had them as a teachers at Osnovna Škola Grm. It's a fact. One of them was my teacher of geography that at one point wanted to literally struggle me because he hated me so much. He hated me so much for who I was that he couldn't handle his traumas that he had experienced in concentration camp, for which I deem it was terrible. It must have been terrible. But I find it hardly acceptable for any political system to keep people like this literally in educational system in order to control the school, or in other words, other teachers, and even in perform and stuff like this against children alone. It was extremely disturbing communist environment where I grew up. I think now you know it all. I hope you have enjoyed these videos and will know what to do. In continuation on my blog, you will be able to see my all the recordings that I have gathered. I will give you comments and will confirm everything that I have stated here have taken place. We'll substantiate that with the documents, which also I will have them translated, voice recorded. It's easier for me that way, and there's so much other stuff that I have to do that I can't concentrate solely on translating garbage, mountains of this garbage. I can't waste so much time. There's so much other stuff that I have to do. We all helped you out by throwing you in mental hospital. It was all help to you. It was all help to you. Everything in my case was help to me. It was help to me because when I exited, since intelligence agencies, imagine this garbage, were interested in my case by throwing me behind the walls of a mental institution, would actually give me the ability to claim that I am mentally unfit and therefore I would not go in the jail, just as if it was not for intelligence agencies that I was not only conducted genocide against, but also thrown in mental institutions because they really didn't have and don't have any legit, or I should say legal reason to engage with me with some kind of legal procedures. Right? Right? But yes, it was all good for me. It's always in psychiatry, it's good for you. You know, it's good for you whatever we do for you. If we decline you 30,000 jobs, it's good for you. Then and inside of the mental hospital. So I was really efficient about it. Not with, but just explanatory. If I cite myself, and I believe I have recorded it, I said, who wouldn't be afraid? I mean, if you get thrown behind the walls of mental institution the way I was, for no reason whatsoever, can you please explain to me who wouldn't be afraid if they're gonna come to pick me up? She got more than what she expected she will get. She didn't get no yes, she didn't get no, she got the proper answer. I, in other words, am not gonna accept terra for granted. I am not gonna accept genocide for granted, because her idea was really to say yes or no, and subconsciously the brain works in such a pattern, in such a way that you develop yourself into the direction that is actually even apologizing what they have done to you in real time, folks, not only under MK Ultras, but in real life. That was actually a breaking point. From there on, we have started to I started to see completely different attitude. It was more and more her bubbling about the disease that never ever existed. In fact, she knew that at that point that she will either make it or totally break it. And I tell you today that she didn't break it. She is broken. Today she is broke. She just doesn't know yet how broke she is. From this point on, this mental game didn't change. And each and every one of those sessions, I have repeatedly declined to accept her mind game. She played crazy garbage, suggesting me that hospitalization was all good for me. Don't you understand? It's all good for you. Further, do you remember when I mentioned to you how I was hospitalized? I was not hospitalized. I was brutalized. I was thrown in a van, shackled, and I was on a terror drive. As much as possibly traumatical terror drive all the way to mental hospital in Ljubljana. If we join these statements of mine, or what I have stated, and you have criminal communist scumbag asking you, I repeat, are you still afraid they're gonna come to pick you up at any time? It would be and it was the moment, it was a breaking point in this case. She wanted me to say, but they were doing this kind of stuff, either they were doing this kind of stuff to me, or she would suggest that, which would give her the ability to write down that I'm suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, or would have me, in other words, accept, if I would say no, accept what they have done to me. And they have openly thrown me for no reason whatsoever inside of the and when I mentioned this issue, as I stated previously, what to think, what to eat, what, where, how, and when to shit, not even to shit. if you are still afraid that they're going to come to pick you up, as this communist scumbag Prokshil have stated to me, dare to ask me, the scumbag that claimed that doesn't know anything about my case, but I will explain to you what she knows about my case in continuation.